just like having a little brother. Way more hairy, way more annoying. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Sword. If you clicked on this video, I'm assuming you already know what it's about. I apologize in advance because I have never done a just sit down talking story time type video. I'm gonna do my best to edit out like me getting off track. Like I said, if you clicked on this video, then you probably already know what this is going to be about based on the title. No, the title is not clickbait. I wish I could say it was. Throughout this video, I will have like multiple pictures, maybe like a video or two here and there, just to, in case you don't know me and you're not like a family or friend watching this, to prove to you that I am not bluffing. This is a no BS zone. I swear this was my life for about 16 years when I still lived with my mom. So yeah. So I'm just gonna be very straightforward in this video, and I'm gonna be trying to just describe what my life was like growing up with a chimp, the chimpanzee. I'm gonna be trying to describe it the best to my ability, and I'm also gonna be trying to answer actual questions that I've been asked multiple times throughout my life, because every time this topic was brought up, people would ask me so many questions. So if you see me looking down at any point in this video, I'm literally just trying to look at my notes, because I tried to make notes of things that people, like what people would want to know about, just because I've been asked these questions so many times in my life that I figure I would address it in one video. I did not have a normal life growing up, obviously, as you can see by the title. Quick background info about me. I was born in Illinois, but then my mom and I moved to Taiwan when I was a baby. When I was a baby, we moved to Taiwan because my mom was a professor and she taught English there, basically. Lived in Taiwan, I'd say, I think it was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, I don't remember. So in like 2001 or 2002, we moved back to the States. So at this point, I was 2 years old. We moved to Missouri, of all states, mom, and we moved to like a very rural part of Missouri where there's like almost nothing. The town we lived in had a population of like 300 and something people. I'm not even kidding. So that was fun living there. Anyways, so I grew up with just a single mom. There was no dad in the picture. I didn't have any type of like father figure, no stepdad, nothing like that. I had no siblings, so it was just me and my mom. So we moved to this like really pretty nice house with lots of acres, lots of land. You know, this is kind of why my mom wanted to move there. She wanted lots of land, a place that didn't have a lot of like restrictions. You know, you didn't need permits for having animals, owning animals, things like that, you know what I mean? So it was just like very free. So in 2002, she adopted a baby chimpanzee. Now this is related to her work. She didn't need any permits for this, okay? There aren't any rules like that in that area. So there was this place that had all these apes. There were like gorillas, there were other chimpanzees. I think there were some monkeys there, like small monkeys, which, keep in mind, a chimpanzee, monkey, not the same thing. I'll get into that maybe a little bit later into this video. But anyways, so she adopted this baby chimpanzee. She didn't tell my grandma. She didn't tell, like, I don't think she told anyone she was doing this, just because if she told my grandma would have tried to talk her out of it. So anyways, so just to explain her work a little bit, she has a PhD in linguistics, and she basically wanted to work with like ape languages. And so this is actually really amazing, and I'm going to be explaining what she was able to teach this baby chimpanzee, okay? So anyways, back to the story. She adopted this baby chimpanzee. This was in 2002, so I was 2.5 years old and he was about a month old. She adopted him, took him home, we went home with him, and she named him Bo. So now I'm going to start referring to him as Bo because that is his name. I'm not going to be referring to him as the chimp throughout the whole video. So that was the day she adopted Bo. So we took him home, and I just remember he was literally an infant, so she would like bottle feed him, you know, take care of him, things like that. She had everything she needed to know about him. Everything was cool, okay? So in the beginning, he wore diapers, and he also wore clothes, like baby clothes. He was able to fit into them. They kept him warm, especially in like the colder months. He didn't hate them. He didn't try to take them off or anything. I will be inserting pictures here. I hate my kid pictures, like toddler child pictures. I'm literally just posting these so you can see what Bo looked like when he was that age. He was so tiny. I remember I had a crib still, but then he also had a crib, and it was so funny because he would always like climb out of his crib and would be in his like little diaper climbing out of the crib and stuff, and it was so funny. He was actually so adorable, and since I was small too back then, I didn't realize how adorable he was back then. Getting more into it, basically what my mom was able to do with him is, it wasn't like having like a pet dog. He was part of the family now. He was basically, for me, it was like, the way I always describe it to people, it's like having a little brother, just way more hairy and way more annoying. A lot of people are like, oh,
how could you find him annoying? Like, that's so awesome that you had a chimp.
Anyways, I'm gonna be explaining first what my mom was able to do, because I think this is incredible what he's able to do now still, of course. Slowly, she was like the opposite of Tarzan, I guess. He grew up in like the human culture, if that makes sense. Obviously, eventually she was able to potty train him, so he actually didn't need, he's very smart. Okay, Bo is incredibly smart. She was able to, she started out by having like, there's so much that I forgot to mention this part. Okay. As I've mentioned in a lot of my other videos, my mom her family's originally from Israel, so we did speak Hebrew at home, okay? She did teach Bo both English and Hebrew, which I know that sounds crazy. Most of you are probably like,
this chimp is bilingual? Like, I barely know English.
Yeah, so she taught him both English and Hebrew, and the way she did this was she would have like these menus, and she had like words in Hebrew. It would be things that he would eat normally in the mornings, or like, it started out very simple. Like, it would just be like the word food or eat was written in Hebrew on there. The word like toilet was there if he needed to use the toilet when he was a lot younger and she needed to go and take him. Just like simple things like that. It started out very simplistic. You know, she would make them more and more detailed. Like if he wanted grapes, he would point to the word grapes, and he would point to them, and he knew what he was pointing to. He knew what he was talking about. He would point to them and ask for them and stuff, and so she would give that to him. And so that's how she started out, and it would always be in Hebrew words, because keep in mind, we spoke Hebrew at the house. Later, to kind of get him more involved with other people and teach him more English, since we were speaking Hebrew at the house, eventually she actually had interns come. So these would be like grad students. I was really little still. I think we had interns when I was like, say between the ages of like 5 and 10. Like we had all these interns come from all these different places, and it was really neat. They wouldn't stay for super long periods of time. I think the most they would stay would be like a few months. Most of them were really awesome. Like I remember even as a kid, I bonded with a lot of them. They would come and work with Bo and stuff. But there were also ones who came who were not so great. No, my mom did not pay them, but they were able to work with Bo and had another house that my mom bought. That she bought for interns to be able to stay there and then be able to come to our house. So they would have like a whole house to themselves. This was a really nice house, and they didn't have to pay for it or anything. Some of them were really greedy, and they would like complain like, oh, it wasn't good enough, blah blah blah. Didn't come for the right purposes, and ended up leaving really early. And yeah, I'm not gonna get into that. So what the interns would do, like we'd usually have 1 or 2 at a time, not more than that, because it wasn't good to like surround him with like groups of people, you know. It's better to do one-on-one with. They would teach him things in English, the same things that my mom was teaching him in Hebrew, but in English. And my mom would a lot of times stay with them too and work with them. But there were times where whenever my mom wanted to get away or get out of the house and we had like a day to do stuff, and they would watch Bo, but at the same time while they were watching Bo, they would also work with him and stuff and teach him things. Like, so they had like the same menus just in English. So this is how he kept up his Hebrew and his English. Eventually my mom would make these more complicated, and it got to the point where he had the whole alphabet, 2 alphabets, English and Hebrew, the letter A in English and then the letter Aleph, which is equivalent to the letter A in Hebrew. He also had numbers, and he would point, you know, he's so smart, he would point and spell out everything. It was to the point where like he could tell us, he could just like talk to us, you know. And so he would take my mom's hand and he would point. And so it was really amazing what my mom was able to do with him, because it was to the point where he is now able to communicate with us and has the ability and the freedom to tell us anything that he wants, whatever he wants. This would not just be for like food, like he could spell out whatever food he wanted, but he would also point to like things to tell my mom things. It got to the point where he would lie just like a normal, just like, you know, people lie. Like one time he told my mom that there was a giraffe in the backyard. He was incredibly smart. So now rewinding kind of, I had to explain to you guys like what the purpose was, what she was able to do with him. So it was part of her work. It was part of her like research, ape languages. So now I'm gonna be kind of like addressing a lot of questions that I've gotten in the past about Bo, and just like explaining my perspective of things now that I've explained to you what she was able to do with him. So as for clothing, people would always ask about clothing. He wore clothes in the beginning, and he would wear diapers with them when he was really little. So cute, like literally he dressed up as a pumpkin for Halloween one time. Eventually he stopped wearing clothes because he didn't like wearing, like it got to the point where he was getting bigger and he would just like rip them off or tear them apart, and he just wouldn't want to wear them, so we didn't make him wear clothes after that. So he would just wear diapers around the house, and this was before he was potty trained. And then eventually once he was potty trained, he wasn't wearing diapers anymore either. A lot of people would ask me like, what does he eat? Because a lot of people would be interested in that. So he was actually able to eat most of the same foods as we do. Obviously my mom, she would keep track of his diet really well, make sure he wasn't eating too much sugar or things like that. But he would pretty much eat the same food as us. He would eat chicken. The only thing is he would have more fruit in his diet than we did. Like for breakfast, normally he would have like a huge bowl of grapes because that's what he liked to eat for breakfast. For pretty much every other meal, he would always have bananas in it, but at the same time, he would also eat what we're eating. Like sometimes he would even have like Jello for dessert like us. And a lot of people are amazed by this, but I mean, if you've taken biology, chimpanzees are the closest animals to humans, so it makes sense. Then I'm gonna talk about like transportation, traveling, because people would always ask me, oh, did you take him to places with you? So when he was younger, he would actually go on car rides with us. He actually had been on road trips with us even. He was smaller. We even drove all the way out to New Hampshire once. Stayed at like this nice lake house with one of the interns. It was like me, my mom, one of the interns, and Bo. I still have memories from there, and it was really nice. And yeah, he would go on car rides with us and stuff. It used to be where he was small enough where he would ride like on my mom's back because it was just easiest to give him piggyback rides. We would go places. My mom would just be walking and there'd be Bo on my mom's back. Like, that was my norm, guys. Like, but then as he got older, obviously he was too big for that and we stopped taking him on car rides. But my mom was able to build this like really big like pen for him, this indoor and outdoor environment. And then another question I have here is like, what was my social life like? What did people think of this? For the most part, people were super like amazed by all of this. No, I didn't get bullied for this or anything. I mean, I went to a really small elementary school where everyone knew everyone. Like, people were kind of used to this. Like, they knew this about us. They knew that we had a chimp, and they were, I mean, obviously they were still extremely amazed by it, and they would ask a ton of questions all the time. The only bad incident that I can recall that happened to me socially based on this was one time I was in 4th grade. I went to school and this girl, she was known as the mean girl of the class. Like, no one really liked her because she was just really mean, and honestly she was a psychopath. I have so many other stories with her. Anyways, it's not a huge thing, but it kind of was at the time. So yeah, I came to school and she tried to say that like we illegally own Bo, that it's illegal to have a chimp where we are, which I know in some places you cannot do that and you cannot own them. I understand that, but my mom specifically picked this area so that she could legally have a chimp and be able to do her work with Bo. So this was a bunch of bogus coming out of this little girl's mouth. But obviously this was in 4th grade, so I don't remember the exact words she used, but she was basically getting all up in my face, bullying me about it, telling me that it's illegal, we own him illegally, blah, blah, blah. All these things, and just accusing me of things that were obviously out of my control, but also things that just weren't true in general. And so I just remember I started to have like a panic attack. Back then I had a lot of like issues socially because I didn't want to talk to anyone. I had really bad social anxiety, and so one of the worst things that could happen is me crying in public. So I was like trying to hold back tears, and I was like having a panic attack. So every time I would start to cry in public at this age, I would start to like hyperventilate and stuff. So I was like hyperventilating, but I was trying to do it as quietly as possible because I didn't want the attention on me. And so my 4th grade teacher was super nice, and she noticed something was wrong, and she asked my friend if I was okay. My friend told her I was crying. I think the teacher confronted me about this, and I think I might have vaguely told her what happened. So my teacher sent this girl to the principal's office, and then I think after breakfast they had me go to the principal's office and the principal forced her to apologize to me. At this point, this girl was bawling her eyes out because she was in trouble, obviously, which, you know, she didn't have to come up to me and like bully me about it, but yeah, I just accepted her apology and that was that. So that's like the only really big incident that I recall socially about this with Bo. Most people that I knew were super amazed by this and always wanted to hear more about it. Now, I don't know what people said about me behind my back. So obviously people will always have something to say about you, and people will always talk about you behind your back. As far as I knew, most of my elementary, middle school, and high school, everyone thought it was really cool. However, this also came with like really annoying questions because I got them so frequently, and I had to like answer these questions almost on a daily basis, or at least when Bo would get brought up. So a really annoying thing that they would do is they would always refer to him as a monkey. And as I mentioned earlier in the videos, chimpanzees and monkeys are not the same animal. I remember it would really frustrate my mom too, because she, you know, this was her work and it was pretty serious. And it would be fine if it was like one time they called him a monkey, but they would continue. Like, some people would just continue to refer to him as a monkey.
I'm sorry. I can't ever remember.
Like, I would correct them like 500 times, and it got to the point where it's getting too tired to correct them. Another annoying thing was that anytime, I would just get really annoyed whenever I was just trying to have a conversation with someone, and then someone else would always bring up the fact that we had a chimp. Like, I don't mind talking about it, but I would just be having like a normal conversation with someone about like their life or my life, and I was just like talking about something completely different. And then someone else would be like,
"Oh, did you know that Sword has a chimp?"
You have a chimp?
And it would just get really annoying because then I would have to go into the same conversation that I have with people every single time they found out that I have a chimp. I get it, it's crazy. If I found out that someone had like a freaking leopard or something, I would probably want to hear about it too. Now I don't mind talking about it at all, but as a kid, I would always get really self-conscious about it and be like,
"Oh, they think I'm weird because I live with a chimp."
Which, duh, that's kind of weird. and people want to hear about it, and I get that now. But as a kid, I didn't want to constantly be talking about this, and I get that it's, you know, people are gonna want to hear about it. Sometimes it felt like people would only be interested to talk to me just to hear about Bo. That is when it would get kind of upsetting, when someone would come up to me and I'd be like, oh, like they're trying to talk to me, and then in the end I'm realizing they're only trying to talk to me to talk about Bo. You know, as a kid, I would sometimes get jealous of all the attention that Bo would get, because obviously, I know that sounds so crazy because you're like, he's a chimpanzee sort. I remember my mom like threw a birthday party for him. It was like his 5th birthday party, so I think I was like 7 or something. And all of these people showed up, like this freaking flute player that was on TV at one point. All I wanted was for people to want to talk to me for me and not just to ask about Bo. It got tiring after a while. I'm not gonna lie, it did get tiring after a while, and that is kind of the negative side of that. Another thing, as he got older, my mom had to, when my mom didn't have interns anymore, my mom had to stay with Bo 24/7. Oh my gosh, I want a chimp. I wish I grew up with a chimp. No, you don't. I know it's easy to think this when you didn't have the same experience, when you've never lived with a chimp, but I'm telling you from my personal experience, my mom had to stay with Bo 24/7. Like, she was not able to leave him until she put him to bed. Think about it this way, I guess you wouldn't leave like a small child unsupervised, you know, unless she had a chimp sitter. I know that's like a funny term, but that's like what we call it, which she actually has one right now, thank goodness. But she would obviously have to pay them by the hour. She would have to make sure that they're qualified, all these other things. She had to make sure she could trust them, and it was a lot of money, and so we didn't really get to go on like vacations very often because of this, because not only would she have to pay for like the vacation itself, but she would have to pay, like, paying someone to watch Bo was actually always ended up being like even more money. So that was hard, and what I'm trying to say is that this is mostly to the people who hear about me having a chimp and are like, oh, I want a chimp, I wish I grew up with a chimp. It's not as like lovely and snazzy as you think. Living with Bo, my mom did have to make a lot of sacrifices that a lot of people would never make, and that is how passionate she was about this. That's how much she wanted to make this work. And again, of course, not just that, he's part of the family. I did kind of have stricter rules growing up because of that too. Like, she had very specific like meal times where we would all eat and Bo would eat. Lunch would always be at 12 and dinner would always be at 5. And around those times, she didn't let anyone come to the house, just because if they came to the house around the same time that Bo was trying to have a meal, then he would make a fuss, and it would make it harder for her to feed him and be able to get things done. I do honestly respect her, and I really look up to her for everything she did. So yeah, so he does still live with my mom. He's 17 years old now, and he will be 18 in February. And so yeah, I don't know, I just wanted to make this video because so many people in my real life ask me and want to know about this. This was also just something I wanted to get off my chest onto this channel, just so people understand that I didn't have like a normal background growing up. I hope that nothing I said came off as offensive to anyone who is watching this who may know me in my real life. I just really needed to make this video. This isn't like one of those videos that I'm making because I enjoy to make it. It's more a video that I'm making for other people to enjoy. I've stated so many times in this video, I am not promoting you guys to go and get a chimpanzee. Like I said, my mom made a lot of sacrifices to make this work, and she does still have Bo. She does actually have a channel where she talks about Bo and makes videos about Bo and her work. So if you want to check that out, I'm going to put her link down below, and this is her channel name right here. So yeah, it's actually really amazing what she was able to do with him, and I just wanted to share my story and my perspective. That's pretty much all I have. If you have any other questions, feel free to comment them down below. I will answer every single one of them. Please don't send me hate or anything. This was just my experience. Obviously, I don't live with him anymore because I don't live with my mom anymore. I'm 20 years old now and I have been moved out for about 2 years now. I live in my own apartment now with my boyfriend. Please go check out my other stuff and subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me. Like I said, thank you so much for watching.